بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وتم التسليم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يقربنا منك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وافتح علينا فتوح العارفين ووفقنا توفيق الصالحين وانفعنا اللهم بالقرآن والذكر الحكيم. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وصل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. I would like to start off by thanking the al-Musafir, the travelers, for their beautiful voices and beautiful rendition of the Qasida Burda in their style, mashallah. Also, I'd like to thank Sidi Nadir and the Madinah Society for organizing this talk, and for all of you for attending, especially our Shaykh Maulana for their beautiful words. And I hope we all take some benefit and this affects our life, inshallah ta'ala. I didn't know whether I was going first or second, so I'm going to adjust my talk accordingly. In fact, I've been asked to speak about, as you know, Imam Abul Hasan ash-Shadhili. And I think after the first talk, if I mention one thing, it'll put everything in perspective. The Noble Shaykh mentioned that the Shaykh of Imam al-Busiri was Abu al-Abbas al-Mursi, the great Gnostic, the Arif Billah, al-Qutb fi Zamani. He was the greatest scholar of his time. He is the Khalifa, the number one student of Imam Abul Hasan ash-Shadhili. So in reality, Imam al-Busiri is the spiritual grandson of Imam ash-Shadhili. So if this is the spiritual grandson, what do you think of the grandfather? May Allah be pleased with them. And I was a little nervous before coming up, and this is a little advice I got from Shaykh Waseem, my dear friend and teacher. He says, recite al-Fatiha for the Sharif. And as I got up, I recited al-Fatiha for Sayyidina Shaykh al-Imam Abul Hasan ash-Shadhili. And I'd like to request you all, humbly request you all to recite Fatiha for the Shaykh and for Imam al-Busiri, rahimahullah. I can't leave a history lesson today, so I can't talk too much about Imam al-Busiri for a long time. In fact, we don't have much of a biography. There's no actual biography of Imam Hasan ash-Shadhili written by a scholar who knew him or lived in recent times to him, rahimahullah ta'ala. So there's not much known about his lineage, about his childhood and about his parents. What is known is that he was from a place called Gumara, which is now in Morocco. So he was from Morocco, and he was born to a father from the lineage of Imam al-Hasan. So he was Hasan. And his mother was from the lineage of Imam al-Hussein. So she was Husseini. So Imam Abul Hasan ash-Shadhili is Hassani Husseini. It's a very noble lineage. He was born towards the end of the 6th century after Hijrah. And this was the time of knowledge in the city of Baghdad. Baghdad at that time was known as the city of knowledge. Everyone from around the world would travel to Baghdad to seek knowledge. This was 100 years after the Imam, Sayyidina Imam al-Qadir al-Jilani approximately. And Baghdad was known for its scholars. So Imam Hasan ash-Shadhili was a scholar of Islam. He was one of the greatest scholars of Islam. They say that he was at the stage of being in debate. He could hold his own in any subject against any scholar in debate. This was the level he was at. But not much is mentioned about his studies. He traveled the world, he went to Baghdad, he went to other places as well. And it's in Baghdad that he changed his life. Something happened in Baghdad that changed his life. And he met someone called Abu al-Fath, Shaykh al-Imam Abu al-Fatah al-Wasiti. And this great Imam, Gnostic, and great scholar of Islam was a student of the great Imam Ahmed al-Rifa'i. Imam Ahmed al-Rifa'i, who was also one of the great shuyukh of tasawwuf. You may know the tariqa al-Naqshbandiyya, Imam Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, the Qadiri tariqa. the Rifa'i tariqah is one of the biggest tariqahs in the world, especially in Iraq and the areas surrounding Iraq and in Syria. We have many shuyukh of the Rifa'i tariqah. And Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili is also one of the biggest tariqahs now in Syria and North Africa and so forth. And so he, at the time, was a student seeking knowledge, and he decided to ask his sheikh, his teacher, an important question. He had studied everything there was to study, and he was a scholar in his own right, and he wanted more, rahimahullah ta'ala. He wasn't happy with his situation between himself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knew there was more to attain. So he asked his sheikh, he said, where is the qutb of this time? Where is the greatest scholar of this time? Where is the greatest wali saint of this time? Where is the greatest man who represents Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam today? Where will I find him? And he thought he was in Baghdad. Imam Ahmad al-Rifa'i, Imam Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, they were from this area in Baghdad. Imam al-Rifa'i was from Wasit, actually, where Imam al-Wasiti was from, which is in Iraq now as well. And Imam Abul Fath al-Wasiti, his teacher and great scholar and great mystic, he said, you are in the Mashriq, the east, go back to where you came from in the west, and you will find the qutb of this time, the greatest scholar, Gnostic, man of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala this time. And go back to where you came from, your homeland, your home country, your home city, and you will find him there. So Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili decided to go. This was it. He said, I'm searching for the greatest person out there to guide me to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wanted to become more proximate, more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was his goal. And this is something, actually, just to interject here, this is something which we all need to take into our lives. What is your goal? What is our goal in this life? We need to reflect on this. If you read the books of these how to become famous, not famous, but successful and make millions, and all these kind of books, right, about self-improvement and this. They have a principle in there. It's called start with the end in mind. And I read this principle and I thought, this is Islamic. This is Islam. So we have started our life with the end in mind. We're all going to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is our goal. This should be our goal. In fact, this is where we probably go wrong, because we forget about the end. We forget about the end, and we think about the dunya and the life of this world and so forth. And this is what distracts us from being productive people. And if Muslims actually thought about the end, kept the end in mind, I'm sure they'd be the most productive group of people on this planet, and they'd achieve the most. And they did this. If you look at history, the Muslims did this. Alhamdulillah, it's our day and age where we have become lax in this. The dunya has got to us. And the Prophet ﷺ said, the dunya is one of the major fitnas for my ummah and women as well. And we need to change this. We need to get out of the dunya and need to have our goals for the akhirah. This was the goal of Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili. He attained what he could of the knowledge, and he attained what he could of being a scholar in the outward form. He wanted to be with Allah inwardly. He knew there was more to achieve. So he came back from the advice of his sheikh to his teacher and sheikh to Umara, to Morocco, where he was from. And this is when he met his sheikh and the qutb of the time, Shaykh Salam ibn Mishish. He was also a Hassani from the lineage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there's a very beautiful incident how he met his noble sheikh, rahimahullah ta'ala, and it's definitely worth mentioning. Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili was a scholar, so he came with his luggage. And what's the main thing that's going to be in his luggage? And I know this because I've got this at home, plenty of them. He had books. He had his library of books. If you read the lives of the scholars, they say that so-and-so, for instance, Shaykh Muhammad Ja'far al-Qattani, rahimahullah ta'ala, they say he went from Morocco to Damascus, and he stayed in Damascus, and he took his whole library with him. And they said he had there weren't no vehicles or cars, etc. So they had carriages. So there were several carriages that were going with him on his journey to Damascus. He took his whole library with him. And then in the end of his life, he moved back to Morocco, and so there were several carriages that went back to Morocco with his books. So Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili came with his books and realized that, what am I doing here? And to meet the Shaykh, he had to go up a mountain. The Shaykh of the Islam, she lived on a a mountain. So he said, I cannot carry my books up this mountain, it's too much. I've got to stop and leave them here and go alone, go by myself. So he stopped at the foot of the mountain and he made wudu, he refreshed his wudu at a spring there, it's well known as well. And he left all his books behind and he started to go up the mountain and ascend to his Shaykh, or his Shaykh to be. And as he was ascending, Imam of the Salam al-Mashish was descending. He was coming down to meet him. He knew he was coming. And as he arrived, he said, Ya Ali, O Ali. The name of Imam al-Shadhili was Ali, son of Abdullah, son of Abdul Jabbar. And he mentioned his lineage all the way back to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And he said, you have come to us destitute of your knowledge and works. You came with no claims, you left everything behind. You will find with us everything you need in the riches of this world and the next world. So the first lesson Imam al-Shadhili, in the first lesson we should learn is we don't come with any claims to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't come with any claims when we go to the men and women of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We come empty handed and we take from their basin and their barakah, which is an important lesson that Imam al-Shadhili learned on his spiritual journey. And then the Imam mentions that he became taken in awe of his Shaykh, that this first incident that he had with his Shaykh. And he did spend a lot of time with his Shaykh, believe it or not. He spent very short time with his Shaykh. And this is common for all the great Shaykh, because they don't need a lot of time. They don't need a lot of time. In those days, you could say Imam al-Shadhili was a wali before he came to Imam of the Salam al-Mashish. And he became the Qutb and the greatest scholar of his time after being with his Shaykh. So this is what he came for, to become the greatest, to become somebody very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he spent some time with his Shaykh, and his Shaykh said, you need to go to a place called Shadila. So he was sent to a place called Shadila, which was in what they call Ifriqiya. And Ifriqiya in those days, it sounds like Africa, right? It was used to refer to Tunisia. So he was sent to Tunisia, to a place called Shadila, and that's why he's known as Shadhili or Shadhili as well, as some say. And he settled there. When he settled there, he became, there's a famous incident before I mention what happened in his life. A famous incident when he arrived. When he arrived in this place, in Tunisia, he saw there was a famine, and he saw how people were really poor and didn't have enough money to buy food. So it came in his heart that, if I had the money, if I had the means, I would provide for these people. I'd give them something. So he heard a voice in him say, take out what's in your pocket. So he put his hand in his pocket and he took out and he found silver coins. So he went to the baker and he bought loaves of bread that they have, and he started giving it out to the poor people, and they all took it very quickly. And he gave him the silver coins, and the baker said, you Moroccans, you do a bit of, what they call it, forgery and alchemy, that's right, yeah. You do alchemy, mashallah. So we don't know if these are real or not. So he says, what are you going to give me instead? So he gave some of his belongings as he pawned some of his belongings, and gave them as a pawn. And he went to get these coins checked, are the real coins, how can I pay off my debt to this man? I thought they were real coins. So as he was walking, he met a man, and he said, give me the coins. He took the coins and he shook them, and he goes, they find these coins, go back and pay him. So he went back and he paid the man and the baker, and he said, these look like good gold coins, and that was it. And the Imam after this incident was left a bit surprised, he was unsure of what happened, all this happened, what was happening. So he remained in this state for a few days, until the Friday of the Jumu'ah Salah in Jami' al-Zaytuna. Zaytuna, famous name now because of in America, the city, mashallah, you're from there, mashallah. Jami' al-Zaytuna is actually a university in Tunisia. It's started in Tunisia, and it has a great manhaj, a great methodology. And one of the greatest scholars, recent scholars, is Muhammad Ta'ib ibn Ashur, rahimahullah ta'ala, one of the greatest scholars to have lived in the last century. He's got a massive tafsir of the Quran, and he revived the Islamic teachings in Tunisia recently. So they were he came to read Salat al-Jumu'ah in Jami' al-Zaytuna, University of Zaytuna in Tunisia, and he read his sunnahs before the Jumu'ah prayer and the Khutbah, and he sat down. And as he sat down, somebody came next to him, and this person said, that, "O Ali," the name of Imam al-Shadhili was Ali. "O Ali, you said to yourself, a few days ago, had I enough means to feed the hungry people, I would do it." You said this to yourself, right? And then he said, "Do you think you are more generous than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Do you think you are more kind and gentle towards His creation, His creatures? Had He willed subhanahu wa ta'ala, He would have surely fed them. He is well aware of His servants and their welfare." He is well aware of His servants and their welfare. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control of everything. He is the one that is, everything happens according to His will. There's a wisdom behind everything. There's a wisdom behind everything. This is our aqidah. Every action of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His creation has wisdom. Whether we understand that wisdom, whether we attain that wisdom or not, is not the question. But we believe, our aqidah is there is wisdom behind every single action of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His creation. And this is the lesson that Imam al-Shadhili learned in this incident. And then the Jummah Khutbah started, the Jummah prayer started, and they prayed, and he turned around after the prayer to find this man. And, before they did the prayer, he asked, "Who are you?" So this happened before the prayer. "Who are you?" And he said, "I am Ahmed al-Khadri." I am Ahmed, or Khadr alayhi salam, Khizr alayhi salam. This was Ahmed, his name alayhi salam is Ahmed. I'm Ahmed al-Khadr. I was in China. I was in China at the time, at this time. And I heard a voice say to me, "Go to my wali, to my saint, Ali, who is in Afriqiya, in Tunisia." And I hurried quickly to you, and I came here, and I realized what the situation was. And then the prayer appeared and so forth, and Imam al-Shadhili afterwards tried to find this man, but he had long disappeared. He wasn't able to find out any more information from Sayyidina Khadr alayhi salam. One of the sayings of Imam al-Shadhili, and we realize why these men are great men of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Actually, I'm going to jump to the end of what I had to say because it relates to Imam al-Busiri. He was asked, Imam al-Shadhili, he was a great scholar. He said he was asked to retain so much knowledge and wisdom, and what book have you written? What have you authored? Right? We all know Imam Nawawi, right? You know Imam Nawawi, one of the greatest scholars of Islam. From his books, right? From his books, he had Arba'in Nawawiyya and the other Salihin, and he's got many books in fiqh, Adhkar, Imam Shaykh Sahih Muslim, and in fiqh he's got many books. Imam al-Ghazali, we know him for his books, Ihya al-Din and other works, Minhaj al-Abidin and so forth. You know the Shaykh of Imam al-Ghazali? Not many of us. His name is well known. So do you know the Shaykh of Imam al-Nawawi and so forth? You know them, alhamdulillah, Allah gave them this qabul, this acceptance. Imam Abu Hasan al-Shadhili asked this question, where are your books? How are you going to be remembered? You are a great scholar of Islam, you are well known, so much knowledge, you should share this, you should write a book so people remember you. This is why they've been asked, what are you going to leave behind? What legacy are you going to leave behind? This was the books of the legacy, and what they leave behind, the ulama, what they leave behind for us. So Imam Abu Hasan al-Shadhili said, my books are my students. My books are my disciples. My books are my disciples. And it's enough that we have Imam Abu Abbas al-Mursi as his Khalifa. It's enough that we have this one great man of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's mentioned, and I jumped, that when he went to ash-Shadhili, 40 people gathered around him, and they were one of the 40 awliya of the time. 40 awliya came under the tutelage of Imam al-Shadhili as he came to Tunisia. And he became very well known, very famous, and people started to really appreciate him. And some of the leaders, the Sultan, they had a grudge against him, let's say, and they wanted to harm him. So he moved to Egypt. And he moved to Egypt after he was in Shadhili. And he returned to Tunisia to pick up his student. The story is that he felt an urge to go back. He didn't know why. As he went back, he met this young man Ahmed Abu Abbas al-Mursi. Mursi means from Mursa. Mursa is in Al-Andalus, in Islamic Spain, or Al-Andalus. He came from this area. So he picked up his student and he went back to Egypt. He settled in Egypt. And in Egypt, he came across many other students and people. And one of them was Izzuddin Abdus Salam. Izzuddin Abdus Salam, one of the greatest scholars of Islam as well. Many books, great Shafi'i scholar. Famous incident that you should know about him is that once he gave a fatwa that the leaders of the time are invalid. The leadership, the Khilafah is invalid because they are slaves. They haven't been freed yet. They ran away from their owners and they've taken over, etc. So their leadership isn't correct. And he gave a fatwa that we're not accepting the leadership. And obviously they were in charge. They said, we're not going to accept your fatwa. So he said, if you don't accept my fatwa, what good am I here? You're not listening to me. What benefit can I have for you and the people? So he said, I'm leaving Egypt. I'm going back to Damascus. He was from Damascus originally. I'm going back. So he picked up his bags with his family and he started to walk out of the city. You know what happened? The whole city walked out with him. The whole city walked out with him. This was Imam Abdul Salam Izzuddin Abdul Salam rahimahullah ta'ala. So the leaders thinking we don't want our city left, we want him to rule over. They said, come back. What's the matter, And in the end, he said, you're not valid leaders. You need to be freed. You need to be freed, and then you can be leaders. So they said, how do we do that? And they surrendered to him. And he said, you have to be sold. Once you're sold, the people who buy you, the money will go to the Bayt al-Mal, the Muslims' treasury, and the people who buy you will free you, and then you're free to become the leaders. And obviously that's a difficult thing. We're going to be sold off. The leaders are going to be sold off, but they realized they had no other choice. And he was the one that led the auction, and he sold them off, and they were sold, and they were freed, and they became leaders. This was the power Imam Abdul Salam ibn Mashish, Izzuddin ibn Abdul Salam, rahimahullah ta'ala had. He had many incidents with Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili. Many incidents with Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili. During his time, he gave a fatwa that it's haram to go on Hajj because the path is dangerous. There is Khutbah al-Tariq, there are highway robbers, there are people on the path that are going to kill you, rob you, and it's haram. It was a difficult journey, it was 2 months, 3 months journey. So he gave fatwa, it's not allowed. So Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili was there, and he said, what if I look at the path and I tell you it's safe? Will you give the fatwa that they can go on Hajj? And he said, if you say this, then yes, I will give the fatwa, they can go on Hajj. If you look at the path, i.e. from Cairo to Makkah, and it's safe, and you say it's safe, I will trust you and I will give fatwa that they can go on Hajj. This was the trust the scholars had, the greatest scholars of the time had, in Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili. Another incident with Imam Abdul Salam ibn Abdul Salam, they were sitting in a gathering. Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili and Imam Izzuddin, they were sitting in a gathering, and an incident occurred. I can't remember the incident. And Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili gave the answer. Gave the answer to it was something to do with the unseen as well. I can't remember the incident. But he gave an answer that wasn't clear, and Imam Izzuddin was reluctant to accept the answer. And they were going to get into a debate, and the Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili said, let the munshids, let them start with their chants. And the first words that the chanter said was, the one who's speaking and what he has said is true. The one who's speaking and what he has said is true. And Imam Izzuddin ibn Abdul Salam said, I surrender to you. Because you are my Shaykh now. I give myself to you, are my Shaykh. Being humble, Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili said, no, you are my brother. They were contemporaries. He said, no, you are my brother and I am your friend. This was how the scholars surrendered to Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili in his time. One of the incidents, or another saying of Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili, which is what we are here for today. I started with this idea of the end in mind. Now teachers should say to us, when you give a speech, ad-din al-nasiha. the religion is sincere advice, to be sincere. What is the purpose of your speech? Think of this before you speak. Is it to become known or to become an eloquent speaker? Or is it to give the listeners something to take home, to benefit in their deen, to improve themselves? This is what should be the case. To get their goal across, if it's a lesson on a particular subject, if you're talking about a particular topic of this era, that your goal in your speech should be to teach, to educate. So the goal of this speech is that we go home and we realize there's a higher purpose in life. Keep the end in mind. What's the end? What is the end for each and every one of us? Let's go talk about the Prophet ﷺ. When he ﷺ was in Mecca, he had the end in mind. When he ﷺ was driven out of Mecca to al-Madinah al-Munawwara, ﷺ, he had the end in mind. He wanted many things, but the goal was to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to fulfill the mission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, allow all of humankind to accept La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, to be able to preach Islam, to talk about Islam openly without being harmed. And he had this goal sallallahu alayhi wasallam right until his last moment sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And when he established that goal, he said, Allahumma rafiq al-a'la, the higher friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Similarly, we need to have goals in our life. We need to have targets that we set. And we need to be at a higher level. We're not talking just about, I achieved a degree at university, alhamdulillah, that's good. But what are the higher goals? This is the goals we have. Let's talk real. Like goals we have are. You're in uni, most of you in uni, so I'm going to go through your goals. Degree first, right? Job, nice car, nice house, get a nice spouse. Yeah, this is the goals, right? And then enjoy life. These are our goals. These are our goals, but we have to admit it, right? In our minds, that we want to achieve these things in our life. If you look at the lives of the greatest men and women of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some of them never possessed a home. They lived on rent, they lived on the awqaf that were there at the time, the endowments that were set by the people. And they served Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They served the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they are remembered till today. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has raised their mention because of their duty to this deen. Because they had a goal. The goal wasn't in this dunya, it was for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was a higher, more notable stature. And this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do. We need to raise ourselves beyond this temporary world and think about the akhirah. Think about going back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Sahaba, they were so worried that we won't see the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. They would say, Ya Rasulullah, your deeds are so much, you are Rasulullah, and how can we see you in Jannah? We will be down somewhere low and you'll be in Jannah in the highest ranks. How can we see you? This is how worried they were. This was their target. How will we be the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and in paradise? This is what they were fretting and worrying about. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gave them, and Sayyidina Anas said these were the most hopeful words and the best words we ever heard from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That gave us the most hope. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Al-mar'u ma'a man ahab, that a person is with the one whom he loves. A person is with the one whom he loves. And then Sayyidina Anas said, Sayyidina Abu Bakr, he's greater than me. He's got much more good deeds than me. And I can never match him. But because I love him, I hope to be with him in Jannah. Sayyidina Umar is greater than me, and much better than me, and more good deeds than me. But because I love Sayyidina Umar, I will be with him in Jannah. This was the worry of the Sahaba. They wanted to be with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They wanted to not have him out of their sight for one moment sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is what following these great ulama, these great awliya will give us. Their goal, if you sit with them, is to connect you to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to make you return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is our goal. This should be our goal. This should be our ultimate goal. Yes, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Quran, the teachings, tell us to be successful in this dunya, to do the best in this dunya, because it's a part of the akhirah. To use this dunya for the akhirah is essential, is part of the goal. وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. And don't forget, in the Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and don't forget your portion of the dunya. Allah doesn't say neglect the dunya, give up this world. and live a life of, living the wilderness. This isn't what is required from us. What's required is to use the world, use the dunya, use the means for the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the service of the creation. If Muslims had this intention, they'd be the best doctors, they'd be the best teachers, engineers, opticians, even they'd be the best and most ethical workers, factory workers, farmers. They'd be the most and best workers in every field, because they would be doing it whilst they know Allah is watching, whilst they know I'm providing a service for the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and serving the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they wouldn't be doing it to get a wage packet at the end of the month. The one when the wage goes through, I'll keep this job. Most of us are stressed in our jobs, they don't be working. So they say at the end of the month, to get a wage packet, they'll carry on with the job. If there was no wage packet, I tell you 99% of people would leave their job. And we don't want to be these people. We want to serve the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we want to do things that are for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what we get from these great men and women of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what they take us to. This is what we need to remember. And to be successful, to be of this stature, and I'll finish with this. Actually, before I finish with this, I want to mention a few points. The Shadhili tariqah in general, it's not that well known. Many of you know great scholars of Islam. One of the greatest scholars of Islam is Imam Abdurrahman al-Suyuti rahimahullah ta'ala. Did you know he was a Shadhili? He was a Shadhili. His Shaykh was a Shadhili Shaykh, and he had a Shadhili. And he wrote a book in defense, if you like, or in support, I would say, of the Shadhili tariqah. This is what he did. He was a scholar of Islam, one of the greatest scholars of Islam. A lot of the Ottoman Khulafa, recently, Abdul Hamid al-Thani, Abdul Hamid II, had a Shadhili Shaykh. And many of the Shaykh, some say even Muhammad al-Fatih, his Shaykh was Shadhili. Muhammad al-Fatih, the one who conquered Istanbul, actually called Istanbul, they changed to Istanbul. You had a Shaykh, some say he was a Shadhili Shaykh. Anyway, they had a Shaykh. They were connected to the Shayukh, these great men of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what made them successful. And it was his Shaykh, the Shaykh of Muhammad al-Fatih, that discovered or told Muhammad al-Fatih to dig in this place, and you'll find the grave of Sayyidina Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. And they dug in the place where the Shaykh had said, and they found the grave of Sayyidina Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. After hundreds of years, he was buried there in his time. Hundreds of years later, when they conquered Constantinople, when they were there, they dug in the place and they found the grave of the great Sahabi, may Allah be pleased with him. The last thing I want to mention was that Imam Abul Hasan al-Shadhili rahimahullah ta'ala was asked this, and this is a question you should all have asked really, you should ask yourselves. He was asked, how did you achieve what you have achieved? How did you become the greatest of your time? Because people spend the time, scholars, people, they all go to him. How did you achieve what you have achieved? What enabled you to become who you have become? And he said, I took one ayah of the Quran. فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّ عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا وَلَمْ يُرِيدَ إِلَّا الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. Shun, turn away, give up on the one who has neglected and turned away from our dhikr and dhikrina. And all he wants is the life of this world. He said, Imam Abu Hasan al-Shadhili said, I took this ayah, anyone who is away from the dhikr of Allah, away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I turned away from those people. And I went to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they went to their way. And this is what made me successful. And this is what we need to remember, that true success is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're all going to die. We all have our graves to go to. And our graves are going to be more or less exactly the same. Same 6 foot, same soil, coffin, the shroud will be the same. It's going to be more or less the same. So it's not what you did in this world, what you achieved in the buildings that you built, or the cars that you own, that's going to matter. It's the deeds that you took with you to present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what are we taking with us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Listen to the advice of Imam Abu Hasan al-Shadhili, and turn away from everyone and anyone who turns away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You'll find everything with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the best you will ever find anywhere else. I'd like to thank again everyone and all of you for listening, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us people who turn to Him in the morning and evening, who remember His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and allow us to be sources of guidance for others as well. Allow us to be sources of guidance others as well. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. وما توفيقي إلا بالله وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وتم التسليم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يقربنا منك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وافتح علينا فتوح العارفين ووفقنا توفيق الصالحين وانفعنا اللهم بالقرآن والذكر الحكيم. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وصل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. I would like to start off by thanking the al-Musafir, the travelers, for their beautiful voices and beautiful rendition of the Qasida Burda and the inspired, mashallah. Also, like to thank Sidi Nadir and the Madinah Society for organizing this talk, and for all of you for attending, especially our Shaykh Maulana for their beautiful words. And I hope we all take some benefit and this affects our life, inshaAllah ta'ala. I didn't know whether I was going first or second, so I'm going to adjust my talk accordingly. In fact, I've been asked to speak about, as you know, Imam Abul Hasan ash-Shadhili. And I think after the first talk, if I mention one thing, it'll put everything in perspective. The Noble Shaykh mentioned that the Shaykh of Imam al-Busiri was Abu al-Abbas al-Mursi, the great Gnostic, the Arif Billah, al-Qutb fi Zamani. He was the greatest scholar of his time. He is the Khalifa, the number one student of Imam Abu Hasan al-Shadhili. So in reality, Imam al-Busiri is the spiritual grandson of Imam al-Shadhili. So if this is the spiritual grandson, what do you think of the grandfather? May Allah be pleased with them. And I was a little nervous before coming up, and this is a little advice I got from Shaykh Waseem, my dear friend and teacher. He says, recite al-Fatiha for the Shaykh. And as I got up, I recited al-Fatiha for Sayyidina Shaykh al-Imam Abu Hasan al-Shadhili. And I'd like to request you all, humbly request you all to recite Fatiha for the Shaykh and for Imam al-Busiri, rahimahullah. He knew there was more to attain. So he asked his Shaykh, he said, where is the Qutb of this time? Where is the greatest scholar of this time? Where is the greatest wali saint of this time? Where is the greatest man who represents Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam today? Where will I find him? And he thought he was in Baghdad. Imam Ahmad al-Rifai, Imam Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, they were from this area in Baghdad. Imam al-Rifai was from Wasit, actually, where Imam al-Wasiti was from, which is in Iraq now as well. And Imam Abul Fath al-Wasiti, his teacher and great scholar and great Gnostic, he said, you are in the Mashriq, the east, go back to where you came from in the west, and you will find the Qutb of this time, the greatest scholar, Gnostic, man of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala this time. And go back to where you came from, your homeland, your home country, your home city, and you will find him there. So Imam Abu Hasan al-Shadhili decided to go. This was it. He said, I'm searching for the greatest person out there to guide me to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wanted to become more proximate, more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was his goal. And this is something, actually, just to interject here, this is something which we all need to take into our lives. What is your goal? What is our goal in this life? We need to reflect on this. If you read the books of in debate, he could hold his own in any subject against any scholar in debate. This was the level he was at. But not much is mentioned about his studies. He traveled the world, and he went to Baghdad, he went to other places as well. And it's in Baghdad that he changed his life. Something happened in Baghdad that changed his life. And he met someone called Abu al-Fath, Shaykh al-Imam Abu al-Fatah al-Wasiti. And this great Imam, Gnostic, and great scholar of Islam was a student of the great Imam Ahmad al-Rifai. Imam Ahmed al-Rifa'i, who was also one of the great shuyukh of tasawwuf. He knows the tariqa al-Naqshbandiyya, al-Naqshband, Imam al-Qadir al-Jilani, the Qadiri tariqa. The Rifa'i tariqa is one of the biggest tariqas in the world, especially in Iraq and the areas surrounding Iraq and in Syria. We have many shuyukh of the Rifa'i tariqa. And Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili is also one of the biggest tariqas now in Syria, in North Africa and so forth. And so he, at the time, was a student seeking knowledge, and he decided to ask his sheikh, his teacher, an important question. He had studied everything there was to study, and he was a scholar in his own right, and he wanted more, rahimahullah ta'ala. He wasn't happy with his situation between himself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knew there would only be a history lesson today, so I can't talk too much about Imam al-Busiri for a long time. In fact, we don't have much of a biography. There's no actual biography of Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili written by a scholar who knew him or lived in recent times to him, rahimahullah ta'ala. So there's not much known about his lineage, about his childhood and about his parents. What is known is that he was from a place called Gumara, which is now in Morocco. So he was from Morocco, and he was born to a father from the lineage of Imam al-Hassan. So he was Hassan. And his mother was from the lineage of Imam al-Hussein. So she was Hussein. So Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili is Hassani Husseini. It's a very noble lineage. He was born towards the end of the 6th century after Hijrah. And this was the time of knowledge in the city of Baghdad. Baghdad at that time was known as the city of knowledge. Everyone from around the world would travel to Baghdad to seek knowledge. This was 100 years after the Imam, Sayyidina Imam al-Qadir al-Jilani approximately. And Baghdad was known for its scholars. So Imam Hassan al-Shadhili was a scholar of Islam. He was one of the greatest scholars of Islam. They say that, in fact, they say that he was at the stage of being